How are we doing today? Okay. My Teen Talk title is Understanding Our Legacies and Protecting Our Queer Youth. An intersection, a crossroad, the point at which two roads converge. I remember being younger and walking with my family. Sometimes they would let me walk independently, but as soon as we got to an intersection, I would hold their hand and I would trust them with my safety as I crossed the street. Because this intersection could be particularly dangerous, because harm or injury could come from any direction at any time. But they were also a place for growth and of independence, of trying new things. Streets aren't the only places where these intersections exist. They exist everywhere in our lives. They pose a choice to all of us to avoid the responsibility of looking out for one another or to grow into a better person and to face it together, hand in hand. Though sometimes when we stand at the intersection of our own identities, we become a target of discrimination and susceptible to harm. According to Google, intersectionality is the interconnected nature of social categorizations such as race, class, and gender as they apply to different groups, creating interdimensional and overlapping systems of advantage or oppression. Humans make systems to understand the world, from systems of our earth to systems of law and systems of exploitation. That is how intersectionality became to be. It came out of this realization that we can't just look at our systems of oppression from one perspective. That just isn't enough. What I've come to learn through both life experience and through research is that the more complex our identity, the more these systems affect us in different ways. I came out today to talk about a community that I'm a part of, the LGBT youth community. The community encompasses those who identify as gay, lesbian, transgender, bisexual, two-spirit, and non-binary, as well as other groups. I knew that I had to start from the heart, where my personal experience lies, at being at the intersection of queerness and blackness. I am a black queer teenager. Being at the intersection of queerness and blackness is to be part of a vital heritage, but to be denied its inheritance. To be a black queer teenager is to be a footnote that deserves its whole own novel. To never feel like enough, but always be told that you are too much. To exist as a black queer teenager, it's a job, it's a gift, it's a struggle. To contend with every look that says, we don't want you here, every stare that says no thank you, every moving across the street when you see me, but somehow you don't see color, except for when you want to reclaim rainbows away from the LGBT community. We see this hate every day, we see this bigotry year after year, and we see this intolerance decade after decade, waiting for something to change. When I was in 7th grade, on the way to school, I decided to come out to my mom. I was pretty sure she would be accepting, but I had this slightly irrational fear anyways because of stories I'd heard about normally progressive parents going crazy when their child comes out to them. Thankfully, she was loving and supportive because she had been exposed to the community for decades in New York City, marching for their rights and being part of the New York City art scene during the AIDS epidemic. But not everybody has that experience. I had an environment of love and protection. I had that proverbial hand to hold when I learned how to navigate my own complex intersections. I had a home and I had a community of understanding peers and at least begrudgingly understanding teachers. But this is not the case for everyone. A coming out gone wrong can lead to strained relationships, being kicked out of your home, violence by parents, or even death. I've had people in my social circles who've experienced hardship along these lines, and it's something I wouldn't wish on anybody. According to Pew Research, parental attitudes on queerness have been continually improving since the 1980s. To date, 39% of the population would be, quote-unquote, upset if they had a queer child. It's wild to me that more than 1/3 of children would have the difficulty of coming out to their families. In 2020, there were 114,000 LGBT teens in Georgia. That's at least 200,000 parents with 200,000 different attitudes about queerness. That means that roughly 80,000 young people would lack a safe space if they made the brave step to come out to their families and their communities. Think of what this does to people, to children, to experience such deep rejection at a young age from their parents and communities. Think about that. A queer child, knowing that they belong, can save their life. According to the Trevor Project, LGBT youth are more than 4 times more likely to commit suicide than their straight peers. That's why this is a human rights issue. It's about making schools and communities where LGBT teens feel accepted. It's about protecting them from the dangers that all of us face every day and that without you we face alone. But we have to remember, we are not the first to stand at this intersection, and we will not be the last. So, as a Black queer teen, I call on the strength of ancestors who once stood at these same crossroads. I rely on the fortitude of Marsha P. Johnson, advocate for homeless LGBTQ youth. I lean on the strategic mind of civil and gay rights trailblazer Bayard Rustin, and I embrace the unbridled joy of O'Shea Sibley, who was violently murdered for just dancing at a gas station less than 3 months ago. These are my siblings in the struggle who stood at life's crossroads facing their own intersectionalities. Vulnerable and in the face of danger, they often stood without an extended hand to hold. I call on them and I rely on them as I now stand where they stand. But I'm calling on you, each and every one of you, because LGBT youth in Georgia need a hand to hold at our personal intersections. We need a Georgia that is a place of inclusivity, a place of support, a place where students can be protected from bullying and can have the safe space of adults who we recognize might not always be parents. We need policies in Georgia that are state-level policies in other places. State-level anti-gay discrimination laws at a statewide level, mandates of LGBT-inclusive curriculums, and policies to increase the number of LGBT teachers and counselors because representation matters. And it's about the little things. Checking in on LGBT youth in your life and lending a hand when they need it. It's about making sure that we're using correct pronouns and preferred names and utilizing our own pronouns. It's about respecting the dignity of all people, which includes LGBT youth. And it doesn't matter which candidate you support, because queerness transcends the aisle. The safety of our children is not a partisan issue, because despite how larger society may treat us, we don't stop being your children when we come out. We don't stop needing your care when we come out. We don't stop needing your care at life's intersections. In fact, we need it more. If you take nothing away from this talk, take with you this truth: that the health and the well-being of our LGBTQ youth isn't a regional or a partisan issue. It affects all of us, all around Georgia and all around the world. We need to band together in multiracial, multi-ethnic, multi-faith, multicultural coalitions so we can extend a loving hand at life's intersections where our LGBT youth are standing alone. We have the collective power to be the change we want to see and to create a Georgia where all children can thrive. Will you join me? Thank you.